Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Romeo Planning Commission meeting for April 1st, 2021. We'll start with roll call.
Stegner.
Here.
Smiles.
Here.
Foltz. Care.
Here.
Stevens. Grandstaff.
Here.
Hall. Here. And Webb.
All right, we're going to move on to approval. Oh, yeah, okay. Approval of the agenda. We have a motion. Actually, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make a motion. We change the agenda to include President Malzahn would like to say a few things, as well as Clerk Trapp. So make a motion that we allow them time to speak on our agenda. Do I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. So, item 3, approval of the meeting minutes from 3/4/21.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Well, we can do that now. We don't have to put our hands up. This part of our meeting is the public forum. If anyone has anyone they'd like to talk about. Oh, sorry.
Be careful this time.
If you have something you'd like to say before the Planning Commission, now is the time to do it. Go ahead.
Bill Parker, and I'm interested in 3 of the items on the agenda. I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about them now or later.
I'm sorry, I could not.
I'm interested in 3 of the items on your agenda, and don't know if it's appropriate to discuss it or talk now or later if we have to.
Well, we can let you in as long as you stick to the
Okay.
item subject later.
Stick to the item.
Anyone else like to say anything? Okay, let's move on to new business. Central Business District, allowed uses. Is this where you want to talk, Christine? Okay.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to take a minute and thank you all for your service to this community as Planning Commission members. It really, it's a tough job, and we appreciate your dedication in here tonight. I'll start by just saying that we had a meeting, Chairman Stegner, Mr. Casson, myself, Mark Clark, and Catherine Trapp, because there seems to be a bit of miscommunication and maybe a flow of processes that I thought it was important that we have at least a conversation and share with you the process in the Village Hall and how it necessarily pertains to your job. Everybody's aware of the situation that we had for the special land use for AAA insurance. And we had the business come to us and they wanted to apply for a certificate of occupancy. Catherine in the office brought with her from another municipality the set of forms that you received in your packet, the zoning compliance packet, and she will speak to that. But that's sort of the opening. Somebody comes to us, because it was said, well, why don't we stop sort of these things at the front counter from coming in? This is our process to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to be heard and that their application, their use, whatever they want to bring to the village applies to the rules that we have on the books. Part of the problem of that is the uses that are in our zoning ordinance, and you also have a copy of that in your packet. We've talked about the permitted uses and asked at several different board levels, should we look at changing those? We know that they're outdated. There are some specific uses that are cited on here that we will never probably see again, such as video stores and, men's clothing stores and coin and stamp stores, right? Those sorts of businesses are sort of probably long gone. But it's always been thought that first floor retail would help promote and bring more walkers, more shoppers to our district, thus helping our businesses and in and out service sort of flourish. So that's why we also have on the books that first floor in our central business district is for retail only. The problem that we find in our ordinance, in the permitted uses, is there's several gray areas. There's several statements that could be applied to a multitude of businesses in that fine gray area. And so we talked at length, because when you got this special land use application for the AAA insurance, technically he served under more than one. He could be considered a professional service, which is allowed under this use. But we have the process. He needed to pay the $1,000 fee to come to get the special land use. And we wonder if that's working. Do we need to change this permitted uses to be a little more broad, giving us the latitude in the office then to just get it approved for a certificate of occupancy before we have to pay the $1,000 fee for the special land use? Or are we good with what it stands? And so that's the purpose that we want to have this discussion tonight. That's the information that you have in your packet. I want you to take a peek at it. The DDA has had some concerns about what this usage is, and I think there's some mixed feelings on whether it should just be open to, whatever the landlord can put in there as long as he has a viable tenant, or should it not? Should it stick retail? I think Steve Casson is going to offer some data on trends. Is first floor retail really what people are looking for, or do they just really want to see storefronts that are filled and that serve whatever purpose, as long as that they're filled and the lights are turned on and we're collecting taxes from them. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to let Catherine speak a few words about her packet, and certainly I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. All right? Thank you.
Good evening. I believe you got in your packet a copy of the application for certificate of zoning compliance. This is also, I believe, was included in your packet where this is mentioned in the zoning ordinance. So this is something that has been in the zoning ordinance. This was published in the year 2000. So this is a requirement of us for items, or for businesses and whatnot coming into the village. And we do this as soon as people come into the village. They start asking questions. We're like, all right, two things. We're going to have you talk to the planner, and here's your application. These are the items that we're looking for to make sure that who's coming into the village and what they're doing, they're going to be doing it correctly. They're going to be in the correct spot. So we don't have what we used to be hearing, well, where did they come from? How did they open that business? This is our checklist of what we're going to go through per our ordinance to make sure the correct business or whatnot is in the correct location in the village. And then if you're not, well, like with AAA, we have special land use. Can you apply? Can you be approved? Well, we'll find out. But there is a process, and it answers all of our questions, so we know ahead of time, and they know ahead of time what's going on, so they're not wasting their resources, real estate or whatnot, before they come into us and they have all their questions answered and they get their ducks in a row before they can go on with their success. So if you have any questions about this, I'll be happy to answer this, but just, I know this is fairly new to the village right now, because there's been a lot of questions of businesses and people coming in, or landlords, well, I've never seen that before. Well, that's unfortunate, because it has been in our ordinance since 2000. But this is a great checklist for the people coming in and for us to make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody's doing what they need to do. And we're all working towards the goal of their success and, attraction and, I'm at a loss for word right now, welcoming into the village with this. Does anybody have any questions on the application? Like President Malzahn said, this did come from us. We looked at other municipalities, so I took it as a sample and customized it to what will work in the village. There's any questions, or you see something's missing or needs to be omitted, I'm open to that. And there is a fee that goes along with this, but it's just so everybody can get all their ducks in a row prior to coming, so there's no hiccups after the doors are open and these poor business owners get a knock at the door saying, what are you doing? That's what we're trying to avoid. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Anyone have any comment?
Steve speaking? Steve,
Yes, he is.
Go ahead, you had some comments?
No, I have to wait till after you focus.
Oh, okay. I can briefly talk about that. Good evening, everyone. As part of the master plan process, I've looked at some of the issues with the downtown. Not ready to make a final recommendation yet, but there appears to be, what's important to a downtown is traffic, okay? People visiting, looking through the storefront windows and that, whether it's entertainment, whatever, you need to bring in activity. Now, whether that activity is from an office building that there's people here, or from a showroom, that's something that you've got to decide what's the most important. I can tell you that looking at trends across the country, they're starting to get away from the retail on the ground floor and allowing almost anything to go in there within reason. They don't want something that's going to totally detract from the area. But there's others that are sticking to it and wanting retail. So the decision you're going to have to make as a planning commission, because I can't write this master plan myself, I need your input, is what do you want? Would you want a list of uses, or do you want it more of a general nature to fulfill a list of objectives? You know, and then there are other communities that are saying that we'd rather have anything in our downtown. It's better than vacancies. But I don't think anybody can deny the fact that if you have retail and entertainment on the first floor and people shopping and walking by, it's going to be a better downtown. But it's a balance. Well, how do you want to handle it? But I need input too. I need it for the master plan.
All right, well, I'll thank you, Mr. Cass, and I'll give you some input from my end of it, which is, and I think you already know this, I'm sort of interested in form zoning for Romeo, which favors the look of the town over use. It would allow those people with the money who are willing to invest in the village to make more decisions on what goes there, but not change the look of downtown Romeo at all. I think that's pretty good. I think Mr. Casson said when we had our meeting a couple of weeks ago that that is a national trend. Is that correct, Mr. Casson?
Yes.
Okay. So I like that idea a lot. Things are changing. We're not going to see a men's store downtown anytime soon. And one of the reasons things are changing is because of COVID, Amazon, stuff like that. How people shop has changed a great deal and what they shop for. But one thing that hasn't changed, and I'm not sure how to do that, is I keep referring to this pretty cool commercial during Super Bowl, a Budweiser commercial, which said, people don't show up for the beer, they show up for the people. And you can't get people on Amazon. So opportunities in a small town like Romeo, I think they really begin with entertainment and food and stuff like that. I don't know how you make the village more attractive for places or for enterprises that specialize in that, except that with form zoning, you emphasize, the look of the town. And, are there flowers here, are the buildings, historical. I moved in here 25 years ago. And I started saying then that Romeo's future is in its past. I think there's a unique historical aspect to Romeo. That's nothing new. And I think that's probably what we want to preserve, and that's our greatest strength, and that may be what attracts the kinds of businesses that should be moving in. We'll talk to the DDA about that. But that's just a short synopsis of how I'm thinking right now. So anybody else want to say anything along those lines? Mr. Park?
I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay.
Several years ago, I talked to Glenn Wynn, who at that time was the planning director for Shelby Township. And Steve knows, but, and he made one of the most coherent comments I've ever heard about planning, and that's you can't really legislate economics.
Right.
And that's basically what you were saying. Speaking for myself as a property owner and as a real estate broker in downtown Romeo, and as a DDA member, I've talked to several of the DDA members. The fact that the DDA is not here to offer their input on this, that they have nothing or no impact on this when we're discussing special land uses. Lisa and I have had some fairly testy arguments over this. And while it's not part of the process now, I would think that if you have a specialized group whose total interest is just one small section of the village, the DDA, Downtown Central Business District, and that's the only thing that we're supposed to think about and talk about, we would include them in on the process in some fashion or another, even if they don't have a vote on it. If a proposal can come or an application could come to them, at least for an advisory vote on how they feel about it, I think you'd have a lot more happiness between your boards.
Well, our meetings are open and our agenda is published, so if the DDA, wants to show up there, welcome,
Bill, refresh my memory.
Yeah.
If I recall, the DDA brought in Hyatt Palma, I believe,
I was not on the board.
Okay.
Yeah,
But the village,
Christine was on the board.
okay, Hyatt Palma came in, and I noticed we only received, 59 phone calls from residents with respect to what this was all about. And you guys have to bear with me, okay? I just had a COVID shot about 3 hours ago. And I just went for a 2.5-mile walk. That's why I'm late. I thought it was going to be virtual at home. So if I'm a little winded and a little shaky right now, I think the COVID shot's affected me a little bit. But anyway, and I may leave. But I wanted to be here because this is important. But Hyatt Palma came in and, again, saying that there was 59 people, I think, that made phone calls in too about their opinion what should be done with downtown. We had multiple meetings. We had all kinds of things. And I truly believed in the Hyatt Palma program then, being that it was dining and entertainment. That's what was going to bring it in. And quality dining and entertainment. I did not necessarily agree with the idea of all, and I'm not sure if, and again, I'm not sure if Hyatt Palma proposed this, but I think it was someone else, all retail on the first floor. I kind of like to let the market decide. But one of the ways that we did get more in community involvement, and Bill, I don't remember if you were there that night, but we set up phone lines in the bank, which is now the antique shop, and several of us, and again, this has been years ago, but we called the community. We all had a list of phone numbers to call the community direct. And that effort brought in a lot of great ideas. And I think that's an effort that the DDA should approach, but in concert with the Planning Commission, because then you get to people. Now, of course, you got the phone calls where people that, I don't want anything to deal with it, and that's okay, that's fine. But it was a very effective way to find out what the community wanted. Like I say, my personal feeling is I like to let the market demand, but I also believed in the Hyatt Palma program, and I'm not really prepared tonight to go into that any kind of detail. But it was dining and entertainment is what they proposed, and these people did studies throughout the country and provided programs throughout the country that were very successful in small towns. Now, I do agree with trying to maintain some kind of credibility of the historic nature of the village. You try to do that in whatever you do, even with your own home. So I'm not sure which way we go with the next step. Is this just an exploratory meeting tonight, or is this something we got to make a decision on? What?
We're not making any decisions. This is
Okay, okay.
informational.
But I am going to talk to the DDA director, since she lives with me, and find out, what we can do together to make this go forward. I hope. Anybody got anything to say? I mean, do you agree, disagree?
I would, if I could, I think first off, you all know I am a dying-of-old historian. We are in Romeo because of what is here. And many of our friends talk about Romeo in a very positive way. Probably in the last year or so, I haven't been as active as I have been in the past, but I think something we definitely cannot lose sight of is we are a historic village. We have things here that other places really work hard to have a little something that they can say they've got some history that they can talk about. And we've just got so many homes that are we can talk about the history of.
What?
And this is all helpful for us. Our downtown should be part of a calling card to the area. Now, I'm not saying, it can only be historic things. I mean, I'm enough of a realist to know that, but I think we should approach everything bearing in mind what we have around us in the community. So I'm open to listening to all ideas, but understand I'm a historian. I am a Civil War nut is what my kids call me. And it is important to me that we maintain this as much as we can in the Romeo area. And I will be an advocate for this, and I will fight to keep us aware of this is part of our calling to the community. So I just wanted to express my views so you know where I'm coming from, and don't want there to be any secrets or what I am looking for. So just wanted to throw my 2 cents out there.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to item 3 of our new business. Mr. Casson, you want to talk about the parking fee structure?
Excuse me.
One more public comment?
Sure.
Okay. So my name's Greg Tower, and I appreciate everybody's comments here for sure. I'll be brief. I own a building, a few buildings in the downtown district, one on Main Street, and I'm in the process of trying to secure the purchase of another one next to my building. I think you all know it's the former party store. And I bought my building 20-some years ago and renovated it. We made some decisions there to spend some money on it and try to take it to the next level. And I don't know how many people in the room remember what it used to be. I go back remembering, Shawwell's Men's, the Dawes, Sam Shoes, all the stuff from my earliest childhood. So my concern while I'm here, I'm on the DDA as well, is I'm in the process of making some decisions to spend, by my standards, a fair amount of money to purchase this building and then renovate it. But even me being here 20 years and owning multiple buildings, I'm a little confused on how much help I'm gonna get and buy-in I'll get from, the planning commission and everybody else to take that building next to my building and take it to the next level and try to bring it to some sort of, and there is no real historic value there. It's all cinder block on the inside. It's a fairly newer construction building, but there's a lot of different ways we can do it. And I look at the hardware store, they're fantastic hardware, no issues with them at all. But I wish somebody would have stepped in and guided them a little bit more on the architecture and help them and egg them along a little bit. We want to do right by the community. I want to do right by the community because it's my community as well. But I'm hoping that there can be some sort of flow built so that when we do pull the trigger on this, assuming we do, that we're going to get the support and encouragement to do this thing right, because there's two ways to do it. We can keep it the way it looks, or we can take it to the next level and really make it look like a centerpiece right there as you enter the village. So that's my reason for being here, and I've never been to a planning commission meeting before, but I guess I'm going to have to get this application that they talked about and kind of start going through this process and hope that, we don't run into problems on how to renovate and what to renovate it for, because it all costs money, and I believe people tend to vote with their checkbook, and, I've done that in the village to the best of my ability and tried to make things nice in the areas I can affect. So I just wanted to share that. I think what you're all doing, and I'm anxious to hear more about how the process is going to hopefully start playing out.
Okay, thanks. There may be more from Mr. Casson later to answer your question. Go ahead.
Before I start with this, and I just wanted to say that I was involved with the Hyatt Palma study as the county planning director at that time. I attended those meetings, and I agree with Mr. Stevens that that is a very good plan. There are some great recommendations out of that. The problem is, and what concerns me about the master plan I'm doing now, is it becomes a plan and it goes on somebody's shelf. And that one back then went on somebody's shelf. It never got implemented. And, this concerns me with the master plan. There's going to be a lot of recommendations that are taken from that too. And I want to make sure and hope that you guys are all aware that, just because we do these plans doesn't mean it stops there. In fact, it's just beginning. So we got to start implementing some of those things. So I totally agree with your comments on that.
Mr. Casson, if I may.
Yeah.
How does the Hyatt Palma, what is it?
Hyatt Palma.
How does that differentiate from form zoning that we heard of earlier?
The what?
How does that differentiate from form zoning?
That was
you
a
said
Governor
that's
Granholm program.
Okay.
How to renovate downtowns. And there were grants available that Hyatt Palma, which is a planning consulting firm out of some other state, I don't remember which one.
Virginia, if I recall.
Virginia?
Something like that.
Yeah, they
But
came
did
in
stuff
and.
all over the country.
Yeah, they undertook public surveys, they had public meetings, they took an outside view of the community, and they made recommendations on what needs to be done to rejuvenate and revitalize the downtown. Form-based code is a zoning technique that looks at the looks, or that considers more the looks of the building, the setbacks of the building, the window treatments and things like that, more than the use.
So they don't necessarily contradict each other, they can work together
Oh, they
in
absolutely
unison?
work together. But the problem is, though, the Hyatt Palma study will, I'm sure, alludes to using zoning controls. When they did that study, form-based codes hadn't even been heard of.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And may I speak? That program, that write-up is in the village office. I have a copy of it. And I
Okay.
think everybody on this board should have a copy of it.
Okay.
Of what was talked about back then. And take a look at what, what their findings were. Like I said, a lot of time and effort went into that program. And when its finding was finalized, there was a lot of pushback. And, I don't want to get into any kind of thing, but I think it's something we should revisit and take a look at, let a new set of faces and ideas, make some decisions on what happened. A lot of money was spent there. And a lot of money, I think, went to waste because it wasn't implemented. And a lot of arguments about parking issues, certain issues that are against the buildings in terms of how many parking spaces you have to have based on the size of your building. Those things need to be addressed. So we're at the infancy here, in my opinion, but I think there's some opportunity to turn some things around. Sadly, I've been around too long, and I remember all that stuff. But I think this group can pull it together and make it happen.
Mr. Cass, go ahead.
Thank you. Another ordinance that's been on your books for many years that hasn't been implemented is the parking in lieu of, payment in lieu of parking. There is an ordinance on your books that allows businesses to be charged if they can't provide enough parking pursuant to the zoning ordinance. Anything more, for example, if you need anything more than 25%, first 25% you have to provide or make measures to provide, and the remaining can be waived, provided these businesses put money into a pool with the village that can be used to either purchase additional land, or improve parking areas, build parking structures, areas and that, parking lots, or maintain. For whatever reason, that was never implemented. It came to light not too long ago when the developers were looking to put the office building up there near Bailey, and they didn't provide enough parking, and they were looking to, if they could provide money into the fund, and we basically had no idea what that fund might be, what the costs might be. So we started looking at that, and your ordinance is very vague in the fact that there is no set amount. It basically says that, and I'll read this, the amount of the required fee shall be established by the village engineer and shall be based on anticipated acquisition and development costs. And that is very vague, very biased, and could get us all into a lot of trouble. What those costs might be for, somebody on one side of the street based on drainage compared to the other side, or what the parking needs might be for one types of business compared to another. It's just grounds for getting us all into trouble, trying to determine that. So at the request of the village administration, I did some research across the country, and the mostly it comes out is that the communities that are implementing this, and it's mostly downtown community, they have downtowns, obviously, and they're charging an upfront fee. Prior to occupancy of the building, there is a fee charge. Fee ranges anywhere from the ones I looked at, and there's probably different ones, anywhere from $2,000 a space to some that were over 50. That was in California, Colorado. I can understand the costs are a little higher there. But 2,000 seemed to be the minimum. Lisa and I were talking today, and it appears that Rochester has a similar thing, and their fees are $7,500 a parking spot. There are also other communities across the country that charge a monthly fee, $100 a parking space per business per month. Probably okay to do it that way, but it's an logistics nightmare, administrative nightmare for the village to do that. So what I've recommended is that that the ordinance be changed, instead of the fee being arbitrarily established by an engineer based on some abstract data or information, I'm recommending that it be a set amount, a set fee, and it's collected prior to occupancy of the building, and that money can be used to deal with some of the issues of lack of parking that people have stated in the master plan or survey, and some of the surfacing of the parking lots, and maybe even additional land that the village could buy. I'm not going to recommend what price that it should be. I think it should be a minimum of $2,000, and maybe even higher than that. But I mean, that's up to you people who are businessmen and residents of this community. But definitely, we're looking to establish that fee and to start implementing the program that was developed 20 years ago at least. So that's that one. And you just, yes, sir.
So your arbitrary figure, $2,000, you're going to go to every business in town?
No. No.
Okay, this is for new
Right.
businesses only.
Or anybody that had agreed before, not, I mean, that had a waiver on them or spark, like those guys, and I forget their name over on Bailey Street, that was approved?
Oh,
Okay. What was it? Petaluma, yeah, Petaluma,
yeah.
yeah. So when somebody comes in and they cannot provide enough parking, the ordinance gives them the option of building the parking lot themselves or paying into a fund. We just need that fee. There's no retroactivity,
Oh, okay.
none whatsoever.
So we're still, and forgive me if I get this all wrong, we're still looking at when a person buys a piece of property, let's say it's, Greg, may I use you as an example, when he buys a piece of property, he has to have a specific number of parking spaces based on that business use. Okay, to be able to open. I've always found that kind of troubling. I've always found it strange that we have those kind of restrictions on, because then you really tie in the limit, the use limit of a building. Am I correct in that respect?
You're right. I
Okay.
agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, when we do that,
Especially in the downtown.
We're tying the hands of people who would probably put a great opportunity there. However, because it says in the ordinance, you can't do that because you don't have enough parking spaces, because it says based on the square footage and what you're going to put in there, you've got to have it, so sorry, we can't let you in. I don't get that.
No,
Bill?
because it says that,
No, am I missing it?
yeah,
Yeah.
because it says we're gonna let you in if you can use municipal parking, but you have to pay.
You gotta pay a
Okay, but
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
I guess my point is that situation exists right now, and we're offering them municipal opportunities to pay for additional parking.
Yes.
It's already been site plan approved. We just didn't have a
Okay,
fee.
okay,
or
I'm not
proper
talking about the
language in
particular-
ordinance in place.
Yeah, Christine, I'm not talking about the particular project. I'm just saying, in general, the building's always had parking numbers restricted to them, and that never made sense to me.
Yeah,
I mean-
those numbers would only be used now to determine the amount of parking spaces they would have to pay for.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But
If you're,
am I correct in what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It should have been done that way all along. They should have been allowed to pay into the fund.
Right.
For whatever reason, it wasn't implemented.
And it
I
was
don't-
just said, yeah, here's a situation with your building, based
Yeah.
on its size,
Yeah.
you have to have this many spaces. It just limited the opportunities.
It sure
for people to
does,
come
and that's
in.
why these are being done this way.
Right.
In most successful downtowns, and I think the Hyatt Palm study even says,
That's part
has
of it.
shared outside shared parking, not individual parking lots.
Right.
Yeah, and this gets away with that, individual
Yeah.
parking lots.
And I think people had to get away from the idea that, worrying about how far somebody has to walk to a particular business.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, there were some power players that came and looked at Romeo when Peyton Way was put up. And that really wasn't an issue from them. They just wanted to know, where's the parking at?
yeah.
And again, the municipal was allowed across the street from the church on 32. That was a perfect idea, and it just, I don't know, it got lost in the
Yeah.
mix. But
Well, I've got an example. We've been meeting with a person that wants to buy or already bought the old building in the parking lot behind the village hall.
Yes.
It was an antique place. I don't know exactly what it is or was.
Yes.
Is it old? And what is it, funeral home?
Be a funeral.
It used to be a funeral home, okay. They want to put in a bourbon bar and things, but, I mean, they're restricted on parking. Obviously, if you count the parking spaces, they would probably have to put in 40 parking spaces based on the zoning ordinance standards. Well, this gives them the option now to go in there, create a viable business that's going to help the downtown and pay into a fund that'll help the entire downtown.
yeah, I think that's, yeah. Okay, thank you.
But it's the fee that we need to
Okay.
establish.
Steve, did you notice any other communities in the metropolitan Detroit area that have this type of fee? I was told that Auburn Hills is $10,000 a spot.
Yeah, and I thought I heard that, don't hold me to, but Birmingham's like 12.
You know, it's, the simple reality is that you can't possibly create a parking spot for $10,000.
No.
It cannot be done.
Well, in terms of, Bill, are you talking in terms of the particular community? I mean,
No, I mean, don't go Romeo.
no, we're never, you're saying we're never going to see that dollar is because we're Romeo, I agree.
No, I said you can't possibly create a parking spot in downtown Romeo for $10,000. It can't be done. We
Right.
looked at that. Lisa's numbers on buying the piece next to the post office, she was told $180,000 to come up
To make a
with,
parking lot,
for the parking.
create a parking lot there.
I was told $150,000, and that worked out to $11,000 a spot. The funeral home, a tear down and parking in there was gonna run just about $11,000 a spot. That was a damn good number, good shape. Okay, I mean, by the time you're done buying something, and even if we had bought the 2 junk houses on Bailey, which are now gonna be a medical clinic, by the time you buy it, you tear the houses down, you strip it out, and you do what you gotta do to have a 2021 parking lot, you're gonna spend $10,000 to $15,000 a spot, period. Can't be, the number, you just can't get around. It might even be a lot higher. That's all.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
$1,000 is.
And you're saying, okay.
All right, let's,
Oh, I really want to share this with Mr. Parker because I have a lot of respect for him, and he's been around a long time, and I've learned a lot from him. And I'm trying to understand. The spot fee, that's paid by the person that's trying to take over the property, or buying the property, developing the property. Are you saying we wouldn't be able to get those kind of numbers?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh,
I'm what it cost. I'm just telling you what it costs.
Okay,
So if
okay.
you're talking about a $2,000 fee, it doesn't even begin to do anything.
Then what's the solution?
A $10,000 fee
Okay,
or a $7,500 fee.
okay.
Yeah, I think we need to balance
Yeah.
the two
yeah,
benefits that make it a
yeah.
win-win for the developer and the town, and the village.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't want to discourage economic development either, so you've got to come up with that happy median between.
No, I
And
agree with that
recognizing that their
100%.
costs are going to be really high, so maybe a little bit less than their costs might be the balance.
I haven't seen you come in.
I guess I've said enough.
Do you want to move on to the next item, Mr. Castle?
I sure do, okay. The survey. The survey has been up, I don't know if all of you have had a chance to take it. The survey for the master plan has been up about 3 weeks now. And as of about 2 hours ago, or no, actually about this morning when I checked, we had 99 responders, participants in the survey. I'm assuming that they're all different, because although I can't verify it, but the survey does not allow the same computer to take the survey twice, although nothing to say that somebody couldn't take it on their phone or another computer. That's fine, but for the most part, I really believe that these are all independent people who have responded. I don't want to go through it, you can go through it and look at it, but I do want to highlight a few things. The areas where they live is pretty much in the, in the both the northeast and northwest quadrants and the southwest quadrant. Not as many people responded in the southeast quadrant. The views of the village are very, very positive. Most people are happy to be here. Most people are very happy with the quality of life. They were asked why they chose it and what they're happy about, and are things like the neighborhoods, quality of housing, the people, the schools. These are the things of friendliness, And the people are, I mean, they were very satisfied, overwhelmingly very happy with things. There were questions with things like, what are they concerned about in their residential neighborhoods? And the number one answer was blight, or upkeep of properties, code enforcement issues. That was a concern. They were asked if the quality of housing they think is changing. Most said even no. They thought it was either getting better or staying the same. Only a few thought it was getting worse. Let's see, 82 out of the 99 people or respondents indicated that they are very satisfied or satisfied with the quality of life. They were asking if it was easy to get around Romeo without a vehicle. And that gets to trails and bikes and things, and 85 out of the 99 said, yeah, it's easy, very easy. They were asked again about the quality of the roads, the major roads. Majority thought they were good or even better. The neighborhood roads were a little bit less, but the majority of them still liked it and thought they were good. They were asked about the entranceways, the road entryway into the community. It was a little bit less than great, but it was still very good. It was interesting. It was almost 50-50 between yeses and undecided and nos on whether they would support a bond proposal for Romeo, improving Romeo's roads. But I mean, I can give you, as of my answer, there was 44 that said yes and only 14 that said no, but 36 that were still undecided. Asked them what kind of development they would want to see in Romeo. New development. Overwhelmingly, it was single-family homes, residential development. Asked them, this gets to our first item today, asked them what they would like to see developed in the village. And it was restaurants. I have 57 of the respondents wanted restaurants. Another 57 indicated, they had more than one choice on this. This could be more than the 99. But it was, the tops were restaurants, entertainment, and retail. Getting to pretty much what we've all known or thought all along. They were asked what they don't want to see. Surprisingly, but maybe not, is they didn't want industry. But I do believe that they were thinking of Romeo as being the original 1 square mile area and not thinking of the area over there east of the freeway, M53 bypass. They don't want gas stations. That was pretty obvious. They're tired of gas stations. I asked them about whether they thought there was a parking problem in downtown. Majority of them thought there was. I asked them whether they thought it was more of a management of the parking problem. That was split for the most part, although it's still tipped in favor of, I don't think there's a management problem. So the question was then asked, okay, would you be agreeable to providing or having metered spaces for the prime spots, which in effect would allow 2-hour parking for the restaurants and shopping and that, and keep the employees pushed back a little bit. No, there was not in favor of that at all. It was overwhelmingly, they didn't want meters in the village. The question on whether the usage of the ground floor of the downtown, I asked what it should be. The ground floor space in the downtown should be restricted to retail. 38 people said yes. The remainder said that offices should be allowed and or any use should be allowed on the ground floor. And then, we asked what the middle school, the old middle school property they would like to see there. That's overwhelmingly a village park, small park they wanted there. Some people thought a few single-family homes would be all right, but mostly it was the village park. And then the same question was asked on the Ford Motor Ground, Ford Proving Plant. engine plant, that what they would like to see there. And for the most part, it was mixed use, a mixture of different uses. There is a percentage of people, though, that thought it should be recreation. But for the most part, it was a mixed-use type development is what they prefer to see. There are a lot of different comments that you should read. They're very interesting. They range for all sorts of them. From playgrounds and talk about, and what the government should be doing. And but for the most part, they all liked living here. They're happy to live here. There were a few questions which I just want to respond publicly, is why we're doing the master plan. And, why are we wasting our time doing the master plan now? My first reaction to that is because it's required by law. We have to have a master plan done every 5 years by state law if we're going to have zoning. I think you guys all know that anyways. So if we didn't have this master plan, it would be, our zoning could theoretically be thrown out. I think you saw that, those of you who were there when those two brothers were looking to develop Bailey Street there with an industrial building for the first zoning we had with them a year and a half ago. And their attorney was there questioning whether our zoning ordinance was even valid, asking when our master plan was last adopted. So he was looking to challenge us. So the importance of the master plan, besides planning for our future, is that it's required to have zoning. So just wanted to let people know that. Say somebody's going to be watching and wondering why we're doing this. Yes, sir.
Did we send something out from the village to the residents about this and ask them to respond, or?
My understanding is on the Facebook page and then the website. I don't think.
So you have never gone to the Facebook page, or?
Yeah, I don't believe anything has been sent out to them.
Well, so we're gonna plan to leave the survey up for another couple of weeks yet. It wasn't live before our last village council meeting of March, so it wasn't announced there, sort of, at a meeting. Obviously, talking about it this evening alerts people to the fact where they can take the survey on our website. It's been shared on Facebook. It is on our Facebook page. It's been shared multiple times. Talking about it here, and then I will certainly talk about it at the DDA meeting and the next village council meeting, in hope that people will go on and take a moment to take the survey before the end of April, is what we're anticipating. We don't really have a time frame of which, we have to leave it up, but we certainly aren't looking to take it down anytime soon, because this is great information that we're gathering for all areas, so, yeah.
I've read some of the comments that you included in the packet after all the questions, and there was some very good comments in there. I think a lot of them is not really directed at us. It's more for the DDA or other groups to encourage some of these things that people want to come in. And we are part of it, and we would do our part, but I think it is good that we're hearing a lot of things that, I have enjoyed those comments, and I hope that we will get access to more of them.
I'll send you the updated, sure.
A lot of our policies and ordinances originate from here as recommendations from this planning commission body for village council to adopt, which is why the impetus for us to be here is say we have identified this problem and there's some question about the uses. We need measures put in place by this board, or at least recommended for adoption, of which to measure an application body. And so we're here asking for you guys to roll up your sleeves and have those discussions, and then offer some suggestions so that we can figure out how to keep Romeo moving in the right direction.
I think, though, this provides us with some data that
Of what
that
people want to
we
see.
need, so that we get a feel I'm not out walking the streets right now to try to get information from people, but
Absolutely.
I really appreciated the comments and hope that I can see more of that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may, the comments in here are fantastic. It's very good information, reading, just going through the demographics of who's voting, who's participating, the kind of things that people are passionate about. And the best part, by far, are the comments in the back, that we can actually see what they have to say in words. I kind of have a concern that even if we leave it out until April, I mean, how many weeks has this been out so far, this survey?
3 months, 3 weeks.
3 weeks. So what are we at, like 100 right now? 100 people responded in 3 weeks. Are there ways that we can try to explore to get more people involved and more people to take this survey? I mean, I'm online a lot on Facebook, and I didn't even see the link myself. And that's a little bit of negligence on my part, but many people aren't seeing this link. 99 people in 3 weeks isn't fantastic response numbers, and I'd like to see if we could talk about ways of getting more people to take this survey so we can get a broader range of ideas and how they feel.
With the administration's, I mean, okay, we could probably send something to the Romeo Observer, see if they put it in there.
You mean the
Record now?
the record?
I'm still past that. I used to be
No, I have the paper died.
to the record and do it that way. I don't know if there's any water bills going out that you put notes on them, or newsletters. I mean, some communities do that.
They're just mailed as postcards,
They're small.
the utility bill, so it's not really an
Yeah.
option, right? Or we don't have a mailing that's going out until the tax goes out in July. So, waiting that long really
Yeah.
is sort of, it's really, I think, just talking about it, having a dialogue, at every public meeting. Now that you know that it's out there, you'll go and hopefully share it on your social media page, or talk to your neighbor and say, hey, can you take a minute, and go to the village's website. It's right on our homepage to take the survey, and just point people to that opportunity, and hopefully people will respond.
Is there a way to do a Facebook, like a boost? I know that we've done.
We pinned it to the top of our page, so that's about all we can do.
Can you
it's
put
right at
the-
the top of our Facebook page?
Can you put that URL in the window of the city hall?
Is there something hanging in the window? We could still maybe print that first, the cover page, and hang it there, sure. That's a good suggestion.
What would be the possibility of just like a small every door mailer? Just something very small,
Well, it costs generally probably about $1,200 to do a mailer like that. So, yeah, because we talked about doing that as like a community newsletter, and we investigated the cost and the time. It'd be about $1,200.
In addition to a sign in the window at the hall, is there an opportunity to maybe print out more of those signs and see if any of the local businesses with foot traffic would put that sign up? Or is that kind of a conflict of interest, having the businesses have that out?
No, we want that encouragement. That's not a conflict at all. It's just whether, there's a cost to that too.
My only concern with that would be that non-residents would probably want to participate. If I'm at the office pub, I might.
Yeah, I agree, but you know what? Non-residents aren't bad. They're giving a viewpoint of the community from a different perspective.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa, isn't the DDA doing a mailer of some type?
we haven't done one in a while, just
Well,
because of,
we have to do something for this.
well, we have to do a public hearing notice,
No,
but that's.
Bill, you're right. We've got a survey going out. We just.
Yeah, well, our survey is already posted.
Your survey
It's
is
just
the same
posted,
plot
but it's-
space that this is.
Yeah, it's posted just like the one for the village.
Which means that-
Not being mailed.
That type of thing, there'll be.
Right, and I mean, ours is on the DDA webpage, it's also on the village webpage, and then Megan, I believe, has it posted on the Facebook page.
Mr. Cass, in your survey, in your knowledge of other towns, the happiness level here that you find in Romeo, how does that compare with other communities? The satisfaction with the way of life?
I think this is higher than most that I've worked with.
Really?
Much higher. Yeah.
That's good. In
Yeah, it
these
seems to be a
types of
small,
surveys-
close-knit community that's very happy being here.
Good.
They have all their pet peeves, like anyone, but this is, I've been doing this a long time, and I was pleasantly surprised with the satisfaction here.
Cool. I'm always interested in terminology, like when you use the word industry. What does that mean to people? It's different from one individual to another. It's sort of like if I use the word forest here, people think of tall trees that are
Sure.
packed, but out west, it's one tree every 50 yards and it's 10 foot tall. But people, so, it depends on experience. So when you ask people about industry or entertainment, it's a very broad idea.
It is. Yeah. Well, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not a pollster or a survey writer. I'm just trying to get an idea of what the community wants. So, yeah.
Well, here's another question for you about our existing master plan. When we're done, after we work tireless hours through the night to get this done, how far do you think our new master plan is going to deviate from the old one? I mean, a lot of the, bones and guts of the old one are just going to get moved forward.
It is, because this is a master
It's a big
plan update.
document.
This isn't a complete rewrite, although it's going to look totally different.
Right.
But and you're a built-up community, too. So a lot of it is going to stay the same. But there's certainly different issues now, or newer things like form-based code, like complete street policies. We're now dealing with the Ford engine plant. We're dealing with issues relating to how to get people into the downtown. Back when that was written, their economic development was totally different. Economic development was about retention and attraction and giving incentives to have companies move to your community.
Right.
Now the idea is places and creating places where people want to come live and where businesses want to come be at. And so there's more of an emphasis that way, but for the most part, master plans haven't changed in 20, 30 years. Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Casson or comments?
Thanks for putting the survey together. I think it was
You're
awesome.
welcome, and if you know anybody, please have them complete it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get this doubled or tripled by,
I'll try to share it out a little bit better now.
yeah. And not only is the survey, it's got a short lead-in that talks about the various sections of it and the reasons for the master plan. So it's more than a survey, it's kind of a executive summary of what to expect.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're going to we're back in session. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt Mr. Casson's suggestion, which I can't read because my glasses are the wrong glasses?
Yeah, we're going to make.
Okay.
The one-time uniform.
Yes. I can't
Do we
see
have to
because of this
decide about an amount to charge per spot before we
Do you
vote
want
on
us,
it?
you don't want us to decide on an amount?
Well, I would like a recommendation, because ultimately it's gonna go to village council, and so if you're thinking 2,000 is good, or 5,000, whatever you think is reasonable, 7,500, 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever that
Well,
number is,
I-
it's still just a recommendation sent to council
Right.
to adopt.
Well, I'll make the motion that we recommend a $2,000 fee. Anybody want to second that? Second. Mr. Webb seconds. We need to reword that better. All in favor? All opposed? In favor?
We're talking money, don't we have to go through the roll call?
Well, you're not spending money, you're making a recommendation,
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah, this is not a-
You're making a recommendation.
It's not an
of what
ordinance.
the village should charge per parking space. Is $2,000 really gonna get you a parking lot? That's the question.
So if, I'm sorry for interrupting. If we make a recommendation for, say, $2,000, that's still up to village council. If they decide 10,000 is appropriate, that's their decision.
You are correct, yep.
Good. I don't know if I'm out of my lane here, but I would probably like to make a recommendation that we leave it up to village council. I think it's kind of throwing a dart at the board here that we decide 2,000 when that's the minimum in communities. Communities like Rochester and Birmingham are doing $7,000,
Well, it is up to them.
$12,000.
It's still up to them.
Okay.
We're just
Are we
basically
open-
recommending that a fee be charged.
I know we're not in public forum, but we're open to ask questions of the audience.
Yeah, well, if that happens, there has to be some demonstration that they're gonna start going after some of the property to secure it, and it doesn't go into the general fund. I don't mind, but I've had 3 houses for sale contiguous behind Little Caesars for years, and no one's ever asked about buying them from the village or from anywhere else as far as using it for parking. It'd be ideal. There's no historic value to any 3 of them, and they'd be perfect for, and they're in the central business district. So I would be afraid, if this is adopted, that you all would have to figure out how that money's gonna be sort of set aside and put there to be used for what we would want it to be used for. And I think if it could be demonstrated, people would be fine to pay it, because you gotta have parking if you're gonna have a business. That is the bottom line. So,
Okay? Any
Without-
comments? Go ahead.
In the ordinance, I mean, I'm not gonna pull it out because it's in there. Doesn't it say in the ordinance that it has to be used?
yes.
So it does have a specific spot that money has to be held, and that is the only place it can be used?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so there is a specific.
Okay, we already made the motion. It was seconded. $2,000. I feel like I'm at a bingo thing.
We're not going to take a roll call.
And we don't have to. All in favor? All opposed?
I'm opposed at this point.
Yeah,
I oppose.
I'm opposed to yeah. to
Who's
that amount.
opposed? Motion does not pass. So anybody want to make a different motion regarding this fee? Mr.
Is it a
Webb?
matter of is it a matter of the motion, or is it a matter that we didn't vote separately?
It's not that we didn't vote separately, because we're not, this is not an
Voting on the
ordinance
roll
we're
call.
passing, or a site plan review, or any of that. We're just making a recommendation. Okay? So,
Can I make a motion then to adopt Mr. Caston's recommendations with the discretion of the village council deciding the price for the spot?
if you want to, but they always have discretion on something like this, so go ahead.
I don't feel totally comfortable just throwing a number at the dartboard, even though I know that they can
So in your motion, you
completely
just-
discretionary up to the village
Okay.
council for the price.
I will second his motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Can I,
You're in favor? I'll be in favor? So that's 4 votes in favor, 5. Motion passes. Did you get that, Cindy?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourned twice in one meeting.